So for the Sunday word, it's like being a soldier going out to battle, because that's what our psalm is about. Psalm 27. And our divine service is entitled Divine Care. And our Bible word is Psalm 27 verses 4. One thing I have desired of the Lord, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. Of course, these words are so familiar to us. It's one of the hymns that our choir sings. But this psalm, it's referred to or described as a royal liturgy. It refers to the king. He's getting ready for battle. And this psalm, there are three main parts. If we go look at it, the first part, that is verses 1 to 6. That is a statement of confidence. Yeah, the worshipper, who probably refers to the king the king of the people. He publicly declares his faith to the congregation, and he also declares his intention of offering his sacrifices and praise. And the second part of the psalm is a prayer directly addressed to God, and that is verses 7 to 13. And then verse 14, that is an oracle. That's a message from God that's spoken either by a priest or some other temple servant to the king. So we find in the psalm much military language. So it could refer to a king just before he goes out to battle and facing his enemies. Or it can maybe refer to an annual commemoration to celebrate the king's or the king being anointed or coronated as a king. So we will focus on a textual unit. That's the first 6 verses, and that's the statement of confidence. Our textual unit is Psalm 27 verses 1 to 6. That's a statement of confidence by the king. So these 6 verses, they describe an absolute statement of confidence. The Lord is there. Let's look at these words. We know it so well from the hymn the choir sings. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? So here, these words refer to God as light. In other words, God banishes darkness. He is my salvation, or He's my help. He's the one who helps me in battle. He is the strength of my life. This strength can also mean a place of refuge. In other words, a place where you find protection, where you are, in a sense, shielded from your enemies. Of whom shall I be afraid? So here the king is explaining absolute confidence. And now he speaks of his enemies. In verses 2, when the wicked came up against me to eat up my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. So that refers to past victories, past battles that he's won against enemies. Now he will speak of future warfare. And he speaks of one thing in 2 different ways. He says, though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Then he says the same thing, but just using different language. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be confident. In other words, confident, God is with me. God is my refuge. He is light. He is salvation. He is my strength. So, part of this statement of confidence. Now, from verse 4, now that's where our Bible word is also, is the focus changes a bit. Because now he says, one thing I have desired of the Lord, that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. So here, in verse 6, we find a statement of purpose. This is what the king wants to do. And he says here, he wants to dwell in the house of the Lord. Of course, this is a metaphor. The king or any other person could not live in the temple every day, all day long. This is a metaphor. That's where his heart is. He's connected to the temple. He's connected to where God is present. But of course, he will also visit the temple regularly from time to time. Because there, the statement of purpose also tells us there are two reasons, or the consequences of him being connected to the temple and also visiting the temple. So the first reason is to behold the beauty of the Lord. So he will see the beauty of God in the temple, maybe in the Ark of the Covenant. He will see the beauty of the Lord. And also, secondly, to inquire in his temple. This probably refers to the king going to ask God for help and ask him, must I go on this battle? Will this war mean victory for me or not? So he wants to inquire into God's will. What will happen here? Now, his connection with the temples, it also, because the temple, the tabernacle, the different words that are used here, it's his place of refuge. It's his place of spiritual comfort. It's his strength. And different language also comes out that describes this. For in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In other words, God will hide me. He will protect me. He will shield me in the temple. In the secret place of his tabernacle, he shall hide me. He shall set me high upon a rock. In other words, he will put him at a place of refuge, a place of protection. And now the king describes, he's going to bring this offering to God. He's going to lift his head up. It's a posture of confidence, of praise, also anticipation of victory over his enemies. This is what it says in verse 6. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. Therefore I will offer sacrifices of joy in his tabernacle. So the king's going to bring offerings or sacrifice to God in the temple. And that sacrifices of joy, that word joy in the Hebrew also has connection with military language, a battle cry or a cry of victory. That is what when you've achieved victory over your enemies in battle. He carries on, the king, he says, I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. So yeah, overall, the king maybe is getting ready for battle. And before battle, he comes to the temple. He speaks of God being his refuge, his salvation. So in other words, this is a statement of confidence. This is my God who's going to help me. And his connection with the temple, it will be his place of refuge, his place of strength. And he is here bringing a sacrifice and offering to God. Also to inquire into God's will. Now the second portion of the psalm, it's a prayer for help. It's God help me, etc. At the end of the psalm, verses 14, the God now in the psalm answers this prayer for help, and also the statement of confidence that was done right at the beginning. And God says, maybe through the priest or whoever's in the temple, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. So that's the psalm. It's also for us in our spiritual battles we face today. We can also in a sense use this military language. God will help me. I will be victorious in my battle because God is my light, my salvation, my shield, my fortress. In him I can trust, and he will always be there to protect me. And in his temple we'll find shelter. We have always a special connection to God's house because that's where we also experience his protection. So this is the king. He's getting ready for battle. And he states with absolute confidence that God is his shield, his form of protection. Let it also be like that for us. Thank you for joining me. Until we see each other again.